Welcome to Wayne County Connection. I'm your host, Michael Sweigart. Thank you for joining me again this month as we go back to the Model T Ford Club Museum to talk about the Model T Ford Club of America and the museum here in beautiful Wayne County. As always, I'd like to convince you to do your part to get connected to make Wayne County a great place to work, live, and play. Each month, the agencies and the individuals that we highlight are doing their part, and you can get connected as well. Sometimes there are opportunities right outside your door for you to make part of the community. And we're going to talk about opportunities for you to be part of a community here in Wayne County right now with the Model T Ford Club of America. If you missed last month's program, I want to encourage you to go back and watch that before you jump in today, or just watch today and then go back and watch that. Either way is fine with us. And be sure to share it with people in other parts of the community, as this is an international organization right here in Wayne County. Again, joining me today, as you may remember, is Micaela Knox, the Associate Museum Director for the Model T Ford Club Museum. Micaela, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be back.
For those that missed the last program, recap that bio and tell a little bit about yourself to our viewers.
Well, yes. So I am Micaela Knox. Again, I am the Associate Museum Director for the Model T Museum. I have been here working in the museum for about a year, and altogether we've been working hard in order to make the museum an awesome place for Wayne County residents to come and visit.
Yeah, not just Wayne County residents, but you're a draw from all over the world, as we talked about in our last program. We'll talk a little bit more now. And today we are sitting in a really unique part of the museum. This is the garage area, and this is a working garage in a museum.
That's absolutely right. This is one of our modular exhibit spaces right here. The garage both is a permanent exhibit for the museum, where folks can come in, see historic Ford tools alongside a couple of our vehicles that we swap out periodically. Alongside that, we also have this as a space that could be requested for our members. The Model T Ford Club of America members can work on their Model T projects here. They just have to schedule that ahead of time with us. And alongside that, we'll also use this space to host our seminars and educational workshops as well.
And that's going to be one of the focuses of our program today, is the educational outreach of the museum and the club. And it's interesting that you brought that up, because I was wanting to talk on that at some point, was about what kinds of ways that somebody, maybe they've seen our program or maybe they're watching today and they're like, you know, I think I might like to try a Model T, but I don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. And you have some materials available to help people who are interested in the Model T learn more about how to maintain, service, or even build.
Yeah, both available for purchase, and we do have free resources on our website as well. But within our gift shop, we have service manuals specifically for Model T Fords, alongside historic stories about Henry Ford and the car legacy. We also have some parts available, and all together just a really good community-based resource online through the club forum, as well as our online encyclopedia.
And the magazine that we'll talk a little bit later. And you've mentioned it a couple times, sharing and community, and we talked about it in the last program about how the Model T community not only shares information and materials amongst members, but also shares with other people who might be interested. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to talk about that. And later we're going to talk about the Rosenthal Award and that core foundation of sharing and community development that is a part of the legacy of the Model T Ford Club of America, the Model T Ford Club Museum, and Wayne County Connection. Isn't it great how it all works together? I love it when that happens. But tell us a little bit more. You said this is a modular exhibit. Talk a little bit about more the exhibits that are on this space. Last episode we talked about the fact that the museum is actually a campus, is the word you used, 2 buildings separated by 8th Street, and this building houses some different exhibits. Can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah, that's
this?
absolutely right. In this building, we call it the Agency Building, and we name it that because of one of the exhibits that we host is modeled after a vintage Ford agency, including a showroom with show quality cars and a dealer's agent's office space as well.
Complete with a roll top desk.
Absolutely. It's a very immersive experience over in this building as well. Instead of just a typical gallery space, you tend to be transported into the era. So that's one of the things that makes coming into our museum a little bit more unique in terms of car museums, is that it's not just coming in and looking at a single gallery full of too many cars. We have multiple exhibits that take you through different environments.
And again, that one of those environments is this garage, which I'm just looking around and would have to say, if you are only seeing this museum through this program, you're missing out on so much. Just the vast amount of tools that are here that are not only historic but antique. Some of them are original equipment, and they are right here for your viewing pleasure. And if you join the museum and buy a Model T, you might even work with one of them. We're going to ask Rachel Hughes to come back and talk to us a little bit more about the growth and that sharing and community that we've been talking about. Micaela, thanks, and welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you.
And we're welcoming Rachel Hughes back to the program now. Rachel, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode here. And for those viewers who, like I said, may have missed last episode or haven't watched it yet, give us a brief rundown of that biography that they can hear in the first episode.
Sure. I've been the executive director here with the Model T Ford Club of America for a little over 2 years now. Prior to that, I worked with other nonprofits in the community for about 27 years.
And you're a Model T owner now. You got one for your husband a few years back after coming to the Centennial Celebration.
I did.
Yeah, so you can talk firsthand about the leaks of a Model T at some point, right?
The leaks, the shimmies, the groans, you name it.
How it stalls out on a hill and all those wonderful things that make it such a charming vehicle and that has really captured the heart of not only America, but the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we want to talk a little bit more right now. So last episode we talked, as we said, about some of the cars and some of the history of the program. We want to talk now about what's been going on the last couple of years with the changes in the agency. The COVID pandemic shut down most public spaces, at least for a while, and it kind of changed the way a lot of people have interacted with their constituents and with your members and with the visitors and so forth. It's also made an impact as well. And we want to talk a little bit about that and about what your future holds as you're looking forward to another, just less than 100 years now, till the next centennial.
COVID was hard. It was hard for us. When your livelihood depends on people coming and visiting, and then all of a sudden that's taken away from you, you really have to rethink and regroup. Because the museum is supported by admissions, right, sales in the gift shop, and donations. And we were completely shut down for several months during COVID. And then, of course, people just weren't getting out. They were not visiting. They were not doing anything for a long period of time. So for about 2 full years, we were really hit hard financially by COVID. Excuse me. And then, it really took a while to build that back up, to get back to the numbers. Prior to COVID, we were seeing close to 4,000 visitors a year come through our doors. And when you have that kind of support and that kind of income, you're a viable organization. When that's suddenly gone, you really have to sit down and think hard, how are we going to replace that income? And we are fortunate that the members of the Model T Ford Club stepped up and said, this is important to us. We want to support this museum. We're equally fortunate that the members of this community saw the importance and stepped up and supported us. That doesn't mean we don't have a hole to fill. We're still building back from those COVID years, but we are so fortunate that our members and the community supports us in what recognizes the importance of the museum here, because it's not just 2 little buildings. It is so much more than that. We are telling the history of the car that put the world on wheels. You stop and think about the absolute importance of this vehicle. it's not a car, it's an innovation. From the mass production that Henry Ford saw and thought, this is what we need to do to make this car affordable, to all of the other things that have happened because of the Model T, the things that we have in our society today because of the Model T. It's not just a cute little car that rumbles around the streets of Richmond. It is a piece of history that we have to celebrate and embrace. And you know, it's kind of funny because I will run into people and in town, let's say, have you been to the museum? No. Recently had to go to Indianapolis for a doctor's appointment, and the nurse there had been to the Model T Museum. And I'm like, gosh, why can't we get folks in town to come, you know? Because we're so proud of our museum and what it represents. And we are known internationally for our gems here. And we would really love for everyone in the community to come in and visit too.
Local and national ambassadors of this fabulous jewel. You mentioned so many things. I would love to spend the rest of the hour just unpacking what you said in the last couple of minutes there, but it kind of ties into some of the things that we mentioned in the last episode about the homecoming and about bringing people in, and that was one of the things that was really excited to see come back after the pandemic was the homecoming and bringing the T's back to Wayne County for another celebration, and a lot of that had to happen outside, and there were some changes and so forth, but it did restart, and which is a common theme in Model Ts, I guess, restarting.
Yeah. Well, you hope.
Maybe we'll get into that later. To talk about the mechanics episodes there and pull out one of the DVDs on how to restart your
There you go.
Model T. And some of the other ways that you're reaching out and growing. I know that some of the other things that you've done for a long time, you mentioned it last episode, we talked about it just briefly, the international impact, and the magazine that the museum puts out, actually the association, the Model T Ford Club puts out, Vintage Ford magazine, and that has an international reach as well, right? With
Absolutely.
Local and international advertising, but it's published by the museum, by the club right here in this area.
It is. The club is a membership organization, so all of our members get 6 issues of the Vintage Ford, and it is an award-winning publication. It's been noticed on several platforms for its design and all of the fabulous technical articles and just heartwarming stories about people and their Model Ts, how they've been passed down through the generations. The coast-to-coast tours that people have done in their Model Ts. And so our members get 6 issues of that a year for their membership. And I can't say enough good about that magazine because it really is so important to our members. It's one of the pieces that ties our club together. We can't always all come together. We do have a national tour each year that is held all over the United States. Whichever chapter will host it. It has been held in Australia, Canada, outside of the United States as well. But this magazine ties us together when we can't physically be together by sharing those stories about the little car and the people that drive them, the adventures that they have had, the generational stories of the car that used to be Grandpa's. And it's really a family. You know, that sounds a little cliche, but we have cars here in the museum that are family cars. And you get to the end of the line and there's no one left to pass them to. So they come to the museum, and we are now the holders of that car. And it's really an honor for us to be that person that ends up with that fabulous Model T.
And then you get to share them not only with the Model T community, but with the world at large.
Yes.
You mentioned the tours and the national tours, and that's one thing about the homecoming is that a constituent of the homecoming is the tours that go on. So the local area residents may be familiar with the one-day event. Saturday is usually a big day. There's a lot of stuff going on. Their streets close off. There's a Model T assembly that goes on, and a bunch of other things, a swap meet and some other things on that day. which is one day, which may not seem like such a big deal, but the T's are in town for a week when they at the homecomings, and they tour this whole area, which again highlights Wayne County as a great place to visit, maybe to work, live, and play in, and maybe encourage someone to move here. But at least to see that jewel, and when people come, they have great things to say about us, and which makes it even more surprising to hear those, and then hear people in the community that are like, yeah, I didn't even know you were there.
Yeah, yes, it's so disappointing. But people that come every year for homecoming do consider it coming home. You know, they look forward to eating at the local restaurants, to shopping at the antique malls, to going to Warm Glow, to all the places that welcome them. And that's what they say. We've never felt so welcome as we do at Richmond. And they do come in early. We do 2 days of tours. This year we're doing 2.5 days of tours. But a lot of them will make this their week of vacation. And they just come in, drive the back roads, drive around, visit with each other. We have the swap meet on Saturday, so they look for parts that they might need or trade parts that they don't need. It really is a coming together of old friends and a meeting of new friends.
And with the National Road going right through Wayne County, that really ties in with the history of the Model T as well. And so there's a lot of connection going on there. I got to drop in my bomb. I love making that connection. So thank you for sharing how the Model T Ford Club and Museum impacts not only Wayne County, but those around us, and for sharing that information. We're going to talk to Micaela a little bit more about some of those family cars that are here. And we come up and we'll come back to you one last time. And I want to finally get that story with Rosenthal and how that kind of ties together that whole idea of sharing in community and connecting with each other. And if we'll do that, talk to you a little bit later in the program. Okay. And we'll go talk to Micaela about one of these fabulous cars, or maybe two of them. And so we're back with Micaela Knox, the Associate Museum Director, to talk a little bit about the vehicles that are here at the museum. We're sitting in front of a couple of snowmobiles, which are kind of interesting for the winter months where this is originally airing. But there's a lot more going on. We talked about, Rachel mentioned the multi-generational cars and the way the cars get passed down and then become part of the collection. So I'd like to ask you to just highlight a couple of the vehicles that visitors might see if they come into the museum space.
Absolutely. You just mentioned these snowmobiles. Funnily enough, we just led a tour about these two snowmobiles, all about different types of snowmobile vehicles that are Model T specific. But something that's really interesting about our snowmobiles is that we have one that is completely homemade. The body is made out of Hoosier cabinets. So it has a Model T engine, it has a Model T chassis, but a postman up in Minnesota used whatever leftover wood he had from his cabinetry project and turned it into his private vehicle for delivering mail. Along with that, we also have several other cars, like you said, that are multi-generational in ownership. We have a 1927 Model T Roadster. That one comes from the very last months of Model T production, but it was owned first by a father, and then it was given to his son. They worked on it together, and the son talks about how it was some of his most formative memories being able to work on Model Ts with his dad. When his dad passed, his son decided to donate this car to the museum in order to represent that multi-generational legacy. Along with that, we also just have cars that represent the Model T community altogether. We have a Speedster that is currently sitting in the front room of the agency, and that one was recently put together in 2004 by members of the Model T community, with parts donated and labor put into it, all from different people around the Illinois Model T community. And that car eventually came to us just this past year, and it represents just what is so special about the Model T today.
Yeah, I read signage out by that about how everything was donated for it, and it was used to benefit a youth organization in the area as well, and now it's benefiting others as it sits in the museum here. But it does get to that connection and connectivity. You mentioned that you did a tour specifically about the snowmobiles, and that points out one of the elements of the museum. Every month you feature, or periodically feature, different vehicles, and you have what you call docent tours.
Every month, this is a new plan that we're rolling out for 2023. We will be featuring a new theme on the first Saturday of every month. We're really excited about this one because these docent choice tours give our docents some more freedom to talk about what makes the Model T topic just exciting for them. And it also branches out our educational initiatives so that we're not just talking about the same type of tour every single time that someone comes in. So these docent choice tours, they're available again every Saturday, first Saturday of the month. And anyone can come in and join during that time too.
So those are open to the public during normal hours on Saturday. You mentioned the tours, and it reminded me of one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the availability. We know that you and Rachel aren't the only two employees here in the organization. It's a huge organization that has to be run, and even in the museum is a pretty big event or pretty big space. And so you do have docents, you mentioned people that come in that provide tours that also have a love of this vehicle and want to share it with the community as well.
So my education team comprises of me, our head docent, Justin Mitchell. He has been with us since the very beginning of the museum. So what is that, like 13, 14 years now? He is very energetic about the Model T, and he loves giving tours. And then alongside him, we also have our volunteer docent, Tom Wolf, who has been with us for the last couple years as well, who is very excited about Richmond history as well. So he loves to bring in Model T with the context of Wayne County as well. And together we divide and conquer the tours that come in. When we receive a scheduled tour of a group of 10 or more that can comprise of school groups, bus tours. We'll frequently have different car clubs come in, drive in their own fantastic historic cars, and get a tour that is personalized to them.
And the museum, as Rachel mentioned and as you talked about, is of interest not only to Model T aficionados, but just car buffs in general. The Model T is in a lot of different motor museums, and a lot of different motorists want to come here to see more about the history of the Model T as well. So it does a dual purpose, I guess, of connecting and sharing again.
Oh, absolutely.
When you talk about the tours that are available, about how much time would one expect to spend in a museum if they came to visit for a good, really immersion in all the elements of the program?
If you are looking for a guided tour, which is available upon request for anyone who comes in, you could look at about an hour between the two buildings with a in-depth guided tour. If you're more of a self-guided sort of person, you like to walk around yourself and consume everything, it kind of depends on who you are as a museum goer. But typically you're looking at about 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Okay, so it does comprise a good amount of time, and you can spend, if you read every word on every sign, it might take a little bit longer. Yeah. Micaela Knox has been our guest this program and last program as we talk about the Model T Ford Club Museum, and we thank you for joining us. We're going to wrap up real quickly with Rachel and talk about the Rosenthal Award, and Rosenthal, as I've been hinting about for 2 episodes. Thanks for joining us, Micaela, and good luck.
Well, thank you.
So we're almost out of time, Rachel, but I do want to get to this thing I've been talking about for a couple of episodes now, this idea of sharing and community and the name Rosenthal.
Okay, we have 2 prestigious awards that we give out each year. One is the Ben U. Mori. That's given to someone that just drives a lot and spreads the good news about the Model T. is through their adventures.
Okay.
The Rosenthal Award is given to someone that really embodies the Model T family. So you're driving along, you need a spare part, here's a spare part. All I ask is that you pass it along to the next person. And that's named after Walter Rosenthal, who I didn't get the opportunity to meet, but from what I hear, he was Mr. Model T. You know, he was the ambassador for the Model T Club and was really a kind and caring person who unfortunately was killed in a tragic accident in his Model T. And some friends started this award in his honor. And so when you say the name Rosenthal, it's kind of synonymous with the Model T. And
there's a really interesting and inspiring story that's available in the club archives that people could come. We didn't get to talk. I closed the last episode in the library, but people can come and visit that as well. Yeah. Do you have any last words for our viewers today, locally or internationally, about the Model T Ford Club and the museum?
Well, we would just love for you to come and visit the museum. And if you're interested at all in automobiles, we'd love for you to be a member of the Model T Ford Club of America. And you can join by visiting our website, which will be up on the screen, or giving us a call, and our phone number will be up there too.
Rachel Hughes is the Executive Director of the Model T Ford Club of America and the Model T Ford Club Museum. And we really thank you for being on our program today.
It was our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Well, we've come to the end of another exciting episode, and like every good museum tour, we're ending in the gift shop. We encourage you to end your tour when you come to visit at the Model T Ford Club of America and Model T Ford Club Museum here in Wayne County in the gift shop and take home some memorabilia, not only about Model Ts, but about Wayne County. It's been my pleasure, I'm Michael Sweigart, your host, to highlight this great agency here in Wayne County and how it shines, brings Wayne County to the international motoring map, and also brings the international fans to Wayne County. On behalf of our producer, Jenny Lahman, and the director, Wes Miller, all the staff at Whitewater Community Television, I'm Michael Sweigart again. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month.